What's up, guys? It has been with 2020 election predictions, and today I'm going to be doing an updated presidential forecast. We are only 2 weeks away from the election. I mean, we're getting really, really close to when the votes are going to be cast and the ballots are going to be counted. So, I mean, and I've talked about this in the past. I only think that the last 2 weeks of the election really matter. Just kind of like in a basketball game, you can turn on the fourth quarter and kind of have a feel for how the game is won. And we saw this in 2016 with the Comey letter. I think that was kind of one of the deciding factors that helped Trump win. That was only 10 days before the election. So I think right now is definitely an appropriate time to kind of tune into the politics, to kind of figure out what's going to happen. So please subscribe here if you haven't already, because we are only 14 days from the election. So right now, I want to give 223 electoral votes for the challenger, Joe Biden, and the reason why I haven't put Joe Biden here is because I don't think it's completely certain that he's going to be the presidential nominee on election day. We have seen with COVID, Trump got COVID, that some of these things are a little bit more uncertain. So, and I just want to put that as a placeholder here. And the Republican candidate, Donald Trump, I have at 164 votes that I'm fairly certain about. I think there's kind of only about 10 states here that will decide who wins, and definitely Biden has the upper hand right now. So kind of starting out with the lean Republican states between 2 and 5 percentage points. I have Texas here first, which I feel pretty confident about right now. I think Trump will probably win the state between 3 and 5 points. So, and because the Texas population is pretty high, I don't expect there to be a lot of variability here. In terms of Iowa, with 6 electoral votes, I think this is going to be a lean Republican state as well, even though the polling kind of has it pretty close to neck and neck right now. The polling got Iowa very wrong in 2016. They did predict that Trump would win the state, but only about between 2 and 3 points, when really he won it by 10. So I don't think that the polling error is going to be as bad here, but I think it's pretty insane to think that Iowa is like a pure toss at this point, because just about kind of Trump's strength with kind of the white working class and how he did here in 2016. I definitely think that Ohio has the potential to be closer. However, I'll kind of put it in a similar category as Iowa. This state went 8 to 9 points for Trump in 2016. It has a bigger population, even with the urban centers of Cincinnati, Columbus. I'm missing some right now, but Cleveland. I still expect the state to be pretty firmly in the Trump column. So some polls have had it pretty close earlier, but we've seen more polls that are +4, +5 Trump, and I do expect Trump to do better than the polling average there. So that's it for the lean Republican states. I feel fairly confident in this right now, but we can see that even with the lean Republican states that Trump is trailing Biden by about 40 electoral votes, 35, I think, to be exact right there. So moving on, kind of looking at the lean Democratic states, the first one I kind of want to look at is the state of Minnesota. Minnesota, I think, kind of earlier this year, about 2 months ago, I thought it was going to be more of a toss up. This is kind of the one state that Hillary Clinton won in 2016 that I really thought Trump had a chance to flip in 2020. However, just kind of looking more at the polling data, I definitely think that Biden does have an advantage here. We could see that Trump kind of has some hidden strength here, but we see Trump more putting his ad money into states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, which might show that his internal polling shows him at having a better shot in some of these states that he won in 2016. Next up, I want to move to the state of Michigan. So Michigan is a very interesting state. I had thought that Michigan was going to be to the left of kind of every single state that he won in 2016 because it was by the slimmest of margins. And also, I mean, if you look at voter turnout, especially kind of in the urban areas, it was down a lot more in Michigan than it was kind of in some of these other states. So I think that the Democrats have kind of had the most potential to flip Michigan out of any of the seats just because there's just more uh, typical Democratic voters. I've talked about this like in the urban areas of Flint and Detroit. However, I just saw one poll out. I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago that had from the Trafalgar group that had Trump up in Michigan, and they even have Trump down by 1 or 2 points in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. So based on their polling, they somehow see it, and they try to account more kind of for the shy Trump voter. And in 2016, they were kind of the only pollster on the state level that got some of these states right. So I definitely want to pull Michigan out of the likely Biden characterization and put it into the lean. And maybe if we see more polling out of Michigan, put it into the tilt characterization there. So next up, going to Wisconsin. I also see Wisconsin as a lean Democratic state. I mean, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania were all within a half of a point of each other in terms of the percentage. So, I mean, I do think that many of them will probably vote in tandem. I mean, we could even throw Minnesota in here too. But it's really, really hard to know there. So that is where I have it for the lean Republican and lean Democratic states. So moving on now to the state of Georgia. I think Georgia right now is a tilt Republican state. I think this state honestly might have the most movement from the 2016 election when it went for about 5 points for Trump. Georgia has been trending leftward for a while, and I think with these Senate races, especially kind of the special Senate race with Kelly Loeffler and Doug Collins, I think this is just going to kind of hurt the GOP overall in the state. Now, I think that Brian Kemp as governor has kind of flubbed his handling of the coronavirus. So I think there's going to be a lot of energy from the Democrats. I don't think they're going to flip this state, but I think it's going to become very, very, very close. So we will see what happens here, but that's definitely something to look for there. Next up is going to the state of North Carolina. I'm very, very conflicted on the state because historically the Republicans have had strength here, but the incumbent Democratic governor um, is pretty popular in the state as well. Right now, I do think that is very narrowly going to go for Trump, but this is one state where I don't have a lot of confidence on right now. Like I have a pretty good amount of confidence in Texas, Iowa, Ohio, Minnesota, and Wisconsin and Michigan. However, North Carolina is one of these states where I really, really don't know what is going to happen here. So next up, I want to go to the state of Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania right now is a tilt Democratic characterization. I think Pennsylvania could very well kind of move into the lean Dem slot, but because Pennsylvania kind of has the largest population, I definitely think it will be closer than people think. Pennsylvania was I kind of think in the real core politics average Biden +3. I think now it's moved into that Biden +6, but I definitely think in the polling average it's going to come down in the next 2 weeks. As we've seen kind of Trump in the betting odds, he is trending in the right direction if you kind of speak from his campaign's perspective. But I still don't think that's going to be enough to flip Pennsylvania there. So next up, moving to Arizona. I think Arizona right now is a tilt Democratic state. This is also kind of going to be a big shift from 2016 when Trump carried the state by 3 points. I think we're going to see that Arizona in 2024 is not going to be a swing state. I think it's going to definitely be a state that leans towards the Democrats, like we've seen Nevada and Colorado and New Mexico kind of already do in the past. Um, but and I also think that Mark Kelly on the Senate level is going to help um, Joe Biden there. So, lastly, going to the state of Florida, we can see that Biden has already gone past the magic number of 270 to 290. But Florida kind of will matter in terms of like how big his lead is. If Pennsylvania and Arizona are the only two states that put him over the top, I think, and they're within 2 points, I think Trump could very easily with his legal team try to contest the 2020 presidential election. So I think kind of Florida will matter on this level. With Florida, I'm very conflicted. I think right now it is a tilt Republican state, but I think right now it is a pure swing state. Looking at the voter registration data and the early voting data, it actually would suggest that the GOP is doing better than previously thought here. So, but also, and kind of also looking at the 2018 midterms, you would think that this would be a state that would kind of tilt towards the Republicans. On the other hand, you're going to see a lot more voters here. But voter turnout is going to be very high. So maybe some people who didn't vote in the 2016 election are going to turn out to vote. Maybe some Gary Johnson voters are going to vote for Biden. And also, we've seen the senior vote kind of switch some. So right now, I think that Biden might be narrowly up with the senior vote, and this is a coalition of voters that Trump won in 2016, especially in the state of Florida. Also, we're going to see, I think, 650,000 new eligible voters who were kind of ex-felons in 2018 on the ballot. The Florida voters voted pretty overwhelmingly for the ex-felons to regain their right to vote. So I think typical wisdom would say that these voters would probably be kind of your typical Biden voters. You can reference a bunch of studies that have seen this, but I don't think that in reality we can actually assume this. So I really don't think that the ex-felon vote is going to have a huge impact there. But there you have it right now. I have Trump at 248 and Biden at 290, so which is a slimmer margin than Trump actually won in 2016. But definitely a lot can change as we move forward. So please comment on this video and let me know what you think about my projections. Thanks, guys.